right. There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to your Energy Booster Academy. I know that is we're late. We're kind of like 21 minutes late. Let me check before that, before continuing this talk, if to see if I'm really live on Facebook and if you can hear me right. Let's see. Okay, guys. Hello. Hello, let's see. Okay, so yeah, you can hear me. I it's crazy. So we were on StreamYard and Raven couldn't hear me and she was actually on In-N-Out Burger and transferred to Dennis just to see if it's a Wi-Fi problem. But then it still didn't work. And so I figured maybe we'll just try uh doing this live stream via Zoom. And so yeah, I think it's working. And so yeah, before we proceed, yeah, this topic tonight is just very interesting, or it's very sensitive yet very important. This is all about bullying, centered on bullying at home, and we'll further talk about bullying outside our home, specifically at school, or even at workplace, or even in institutions. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our very special guest for tonight. All right, are you ready? I'm ready and I'm so excited. So, yeah, our guest for tonight survived a severely abusive childhood suffering, physical, mental, and psychological abuse, as well as starvation, isolation, and being twice abandoned. After escaping her abusive home, she suffered many other traumatic experiences, such as being kidnapped, stalked, poisoned, robbed, and hit by an 1810 wheeler. I was like 1810 wheeler, no, 18 wheeler truck, which resulted in a near fatal accident and collapsed spine. This is terrible. Due to her background, she speaks passionately with great authority about abuse issues and has dedicated her life to stopping the abuse cycle for others. Ladies and gentlemen, a former model, now a motivational speaker, a lifelong activist against domestic violence, and a founder of a charity at Children's Compassion Network. Let us all welcome my dear friend, Ms. Raven Faith. Hi, Raven.
Hi, it's good to see you, Jeanith.
Yes. Oh, you just said
Yes,
we are unstoppable.
yes,
Technology
we
can't
are. We
stop
took a lot
us.
to get this thing to work, but we pulled through.
We pulled through. And thank you
Yes,
so much for your patience. Wow,
thank you.
I know the devil is trying to stop us from, you know, bringing
It
this
would
away.
surprise me, honestly. I was like, oh, really? Really? It's not going to be easy, is it? No.
No, not. So yeah, go ahead. Tell us about your story. I've read your book, part of it, and I'm so inspired. I listened to your YouTube clips and all those articles about your life, and wow. I'm just gonna
Thank
wow.
you.
You survived, and yeah, because you are unstoppable.
Thank you. I really, really, first of all, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and I miss you. For y'all out there, it's like Jeanith is one of the people I've actually physically met. She is my real life friend. I have
Yeah.
met her. And I just to give you a little context, my schedule is so insanely busy. People that are really on the inside loop know. It's like when she asked me a little while ago, "Hey, can you?" I was thinking, "Oh no, I can't," because I work 12 to 15 hours a day. But I was like, you know what? It's Jeanith, so I'm going to make it happen. So that's why I'm
You.
toggling In-N-Out burger, and then he's trying to make it work because I'm not at home because I'm working. But anyway, by the grace of God, here we are, and
Thank
I
you.
am super excited. I actually asked Jeanith when she proposed the idea of doing an interview. I was like, you know what? Why don't you pick the topics? I mean, there's so much that we can speak about. So I let her kind of pick the topic, and I'm really excited about the topic she picked because my dear friend Jeremiah, who I did a very, very deep dive, extensive interview specifically on all things bullying on YouTube. Um, we talked about a very broad stroke, but this is a very near and dear to my heart specific look at how home life impacts bullying. And I think this is a really under addressed issue. I think there's so much that people need to connect the dots on here. And I don't think most people really understand how profoundly, when you have a challenged background in an abusive home life, whether you're the parent or the child, how that sets you up for bullying and to be a target. It's like you leave your home every day with a target on your head to be bullied, and you don't even have to say anything. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people really appreciate. And by the way, Jeanith, at any point, please jump in
Yeah.
and say anything. But I had one thought. I was kind of praying about, okay, where can I go with this? Because I mean, in a limited amount of time, where can I really like make like a an example? And I thought there's this one slice in my book. I don't know how far you've gotten, but there's this one slice in my book where by the time I had become about 12, 13 years old, um, my abuse was really extremely escalated by that point. And I was very isolated, very secretly abused. And because I was so withdrawn, when I would go to school, like I was saying, it's literally an invisible target in the workplace as well. Everywhere you go, you actually carry this. It's like a magnet. You attract bully people to you because they see vulnerability. And a lot of time it can come across as somebody kind or quiet or shy or helpful. And they target you because they know that they can get away with it. And what's really interesting is in my own personal life, I was just telling my good friend Sunday, I was saying, I will tolerate personally so much abuse myself towards myself. But if I see somebody attacking you, Jeanith, or somebody I love, or a child, God forbid, oh my gosh, Mama Bear will come roaring out of the gates because I won't tolerate it for you, but for me, because of my background. It's just like I just swallow a lot of bad behavior, a lot more than I should. And at this age, I'm certainly aware of it, and I try to be better at that. But when you grow up within an abused house and you're used to being abused and to be not treated well, it feels strange to actually have somebody be nice to you. It's just the opposite of normal people in a normal house, where if you grow up in a normal house, and you're used to people being nice to you, and then somebody's mean, then you're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? It's the same thing in the opposite when you grow up feeling that you deserve perhaps to be abused, or that that's normal behavior. So people carry this all the way through their entire life. They just do. So I was going to ask your thoughts on this because we had this technical interruption. I was going to ask you before we jumped on, but we've been so busy scrambling just to get live here. I'll just ask you on the show. I have like a brief story, like a few sentences I was going to use kind of as an example out of the book, just to kind of give some context to what that looks like. Is that all right with you?
Oh yes, for sure, for sure. But yeah, before anything else,
Sure.
you know, sometimes the victim are not aware that they are being bullied. Sometimes they thought bullying is just about hurting them physically, and they don't really know that it includes psychological, emotional, and even spiritual
Yes.
trauma. So, first and foremost, let's give them awareness on what bullying is. And, when we focus this topic at home, most of the time it's, I think I'm guilty with this too, because I'm the eldest in the family, and I'm the big sister. And so
Yeah.
sometimes well, growing up, I can still remember, I can tell my brothers, you go wash the dishes, you go clean this, you go do this, and we're calling them names, we're teasing them. And really, I was not aware that it could really affect them. What growing up, it could affect them psychologically. Like, sometimes people would believe that they couldn't do this and that, because they thought, because I mean, growing up, people were telling them, or older sister parents were telling them that they couldn't, like, you are too weak, you are too dumb, you're
Mhm.
an idiot, you're not
Right.
smart enough, you're not beautiful enough, you can't do this. And sometimes those you know those people who are doing that are not aware on the impact of the person that they are doing this. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, a lot of this, there are a lot of phrases that are coming to mind regarding exactly that. So they call it like the tapes that play in your head. So from childhood, while you were saying this, it reminded me. I'll give you a few really good examples of tapes that I still fight with. Because I mean, literally, unless you've experienced it, it's really hard to understand how deeply ingrained these terrible things about yourself are lasting forever, basically, and you have to constantly combat them. But so my mom used to tell me all the time, she was like, no one in your whole life is ever going to love you but me.
Hmm.
And she says this while she's starving me to death and beating me to the point of hospitalization. So
Wow.
that's what I'm believing. Okay, this is what love
Wow.
looks like, the most love I will ever have. And then my brother, who is 6'4" and my primary abuser, um, he used to tell me all the time, and he was also one of my very traumatic physical abusers because he was so big. He used to tell me all the time, he was like, nobody in your whole life will ever want to date you because you're
Wow.
so ugly and you're so
Oh.
skinny. And don't tell anybody you're my sister because you're an embarrassment to me. He told me that my whole life. And oh, and then when I moved to LA many years later, I briefly worked on this is just throwing it out just to show how ridiculous it is. So I moved out to LA, many years ago, and just by accident, happenstance, whatever, I ended up working on the set of Baywatch. And I didn't even ask to, it just happened. Somebody saw me and they asked me to work on it. So I came home after I worked on the set, and he told me, he said, well, it's not you really that they hired. It's just your makeup. He's like, anybody can look as good as you if they put enough makeup on. So no matter what happened, that was what he pushed into my head. So even if I got hired to work on a show where you should be beautiful, it's just because you put makeup on. And believe it or not, every day I still think about every day. It's always in my mind. And then my father who was a pastor and a missionary. When he abandoned me, I didn't know he was about to abandon me. The day he abandoned me, the first time he did it, I was um I was 13, and I was very isolated, so I didn't have a lot of like world experience, so to speak. So I didn't know some words that probably a lot of people did. So when he was about to walk out the door for the last time until the next time he abandoned me, he told me, he said, the only thing you can ever be in your whole life is pregnant or become a prostitute. And I didn't even know what that meant. So when he told me that, I was thinking it in my head. I'm like, what is a prostitute? I don't even know what that means. And then he left, and then he was gone. And of course, later I found out. I mean, when you hear that is, and nothing I ever did was good or right. I was never attractive. I was never beautiful. And the one thing they couldn't tell me because my grades were good is that I was stupid. So that's the one thing I kind
Mm.
of held on to. It's like,
Mm.
well, I may be ugly and I may be worthless, but I know I'm not stupid because I make good grades.
Mm.
So Yeah, so to your statement on that, it takes a lot of work and intervention and just soul searching and a lot of support to rewrite over those tapes because they're so powerful,
Really.
and it's hard to explain it to people that don't have it.
But no, this is a common problem in the society. Bullying, as it is, especially at home. I believe that home supposedly be the safest place that a child can be. And yet, it's crazy when bullying is coming or is happening inside the home from a parent or from parents, from older siblings. And this really is the cause of childhood trauma that I
Mhm.
think every one of us, I mean, almost every one of us is suffering. Like we carry these trauma until we're old. And just like what you said, we listen to this tape and we just, yeah, I think, yeah, complete surrender to God, that like I'm just telling my daughter, do not listen to the lies of the world, because sometimes I'm not perfect, I'm a mom, but sometimes emotionally, when you are drained, and emotionally when you're angry and you're lowest, in your lowest lowest energy, you can say things, I can say things to my kids that I would regret, and just going back to them and like, I'm so sorry, I did not mean to say that. And yeah, really, because I have my own story of childhood trauma. I've been told things like, demeaning things that tend that um made me believe of who I am, which are lies, of course. And we keep on listening to those tapes, and we're just, struggling every day to just not believe on those lies.
Yes. So it's like what while you're saying that, it was reminding me of the verse in the Bible. It's the power of death and life are in the tongue.
Yes,
And if you are not mindful of your words, and as a parent, if you guys are parents out there, I implore you, please, especially if you're feeling angry or emotional, pause, practice the pause before you open your mouth. Just be quiet and think about the impact of your words because it may slip off of your tongue. And even if you apologize later, it's still there. It can
exactly.
wreck somebody. Yeah, and with repetition, they have no self-esteem, and that sets your child up for a lifetime of vulnerability. It really does. There's no end to it, and unless it's like diligently worked upon and healed, it just continues. But yeah, I would, even for everybody, at the workplace or wherever you are, wherever you're engaging with people, please be mindful of the power of your words because it's so damaging and you don't know. A lot of times I have a lot of analogies of things. So if you have somebody that has been beaten down their whole childhood and you're meeting them at the workplace or at school or on the street or in the store and you have no understanding of what their background is, and you can say something you think is slightly unkind, or even if you're joking, honestly, some people have a really wicked sense of humor. You make a comment, and then that person looks like they crumbled or they fell apart, or you think they're overreacting or they're too sensitive. What you don't see is perhaps years and thousands of micro happens circumstances that you just hit it and they collapsed. And you're like, what's wrong with them? It's not one thing you did. It may be taking all their strength to just hold themselves together. And here you come with your, and they fall down. So I think that happens a lot in the workplace. I think it happens at school. I think it happens everywhere. And I think it's important for people to realize that when somebody may seem like they're overreacting, they're probably reacting to a multitude of things where maybe you caught them off guard and they didn't have their guard up and you just struck them right in the heart and really hurt them. So that's something I don't think people know about much.
Yeah, that's right. Here's one thing that I noticed, though. This is very realistic, okay? We can be so nice with the people outside at our home, but you know, the people who really knows that who knows us are the people at home because yeah, I mean, I don't know why is that so, but that's what just I notice. Um, we can be so nice to other people, to our friends, but that's why I think this bullying is very common at home because at home we just yeah, w- w- what the people at home get from us is the version that's not really good. And here's one thing too, like you've just shared about, sometimes we get shocked about the people we deal with at work or outside and they crumble um and really don't know why, right? Um and you're right because these people could be a victim of trauma, bullying at home when they were still little. And this one thing I'm going to tell you, I just want to share this, out of vulnerability. I just found out a few weeks ago that I suffered from chronic depression and anxiety. And yeah, girl. And I did not, I mean, I deal with mentally sick people because I'm a nurse, right? I worked in a mental hospital. I studied psychology when I was in college, but yet I did not notice, and I did, yeah, that I was really sick too. And I just found out because, all this spiritual journey that I had while journaling and really reflecting deeply on who I am and why I was like that. And yeah, here you go.
Wow. Well, I admire your courage for being vulnerable, and you know this, but it's like when you're authentic and you're vulnerable and you're open, that's where really healing begins. I mean,
True.
for anyone that acts, and this is another thing, if people pretend and act like they're so perfect, and I've said this over and over, the people who act like they're so perfect and so together, those are the people concealing the deepest cracks, always. Because there's like all of us are broken, all of us,
All of
in
us.
some way or fashion. And a lot of times, people that are like overachievers and super successful and super workaholic and motivated and all this, they are trying to fill in some hole from either their childhood or some trauma that happened and some insecurity or something that was programmed into their head that you'll never be anything and nobody will love you and nobody will want you because X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times those are the people that are so driven because, and you know this, they'll never fill that hole. For my father, for instance, um the prologue of my book starts with my parents as children, and it shows how they both were broken in their childhoods and how broken people attract each other and create broken
Mm,
children because they have no idea how to be a parent. But
true.
my father, when he was given away to his uncle, who was a very, very, very unkind man,
Mm,
and horribly abused him and berated him continually. So, in a lifelong quest to his grave, he pursued degrees and diplomas and doctorate degrees and this degree and that. He got diplomas all over the world, and it
wow.
never, ever filled a hole. He'd
Mm,
get one diploma, he got his doctorate degree, and we're all like, okay, now he's getting the doctorate degree. Now he's gonna feel. No, it was like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And I think you can take that with everything, like people that are in business or people that are dating, whatever it is. It's like people take that, okay, if I can get this plateau, if I can get that person to like me, if I can make this much money or get that car, get this house, then I'll feel better about myself. And you know what? It doesn't work because it's a hole in your soul and your heart. And until you heal
mm,
yourself, material things will never ever soothe that.
absolutely. That's really true. So like, I think these trauma causes insecurity, a lot of insecurity. And
Yes.
I think we can only heal when we accept the truth that
Mhm.
we're broken, and then start
Yes.
working on ourselves and start, yeah, I think, yeah, surrendering. I think we couldn't find healing until we surrendered to,
Yes, until we're honest about our own brokenness, you can't heal it. If you pretend that you're like keep putting a band-aid on it and putting pretty things and pretty clothes and pretty, it's still broken underneath. It's a band-aid. It's That's still a wound underneath until you rip everything away, strip it away, and look at the brokenness and find out what the root of your trauma is. That's one thing that's always frustrated me, even when I was younger, is watching people paying so much attention to symptoms when nobody's addressing the root cause. It's
yeah.
like, yeah, this, oh, you eat too much or this and that. And I'm not trying to go on a tangent, but what is the root issue? Not for everybody, this is not a blanket statement, but for a lot of people, sometimes they expend so much energy trying to fix this and this and that. But the root issue, till you say, okay, wait, where did this begin? Where is this trauma rooted in? Why do I feel this way? Where's this coming from? Identify that, be honest about it with yourself, first of all, and then figure out how to find a safe, healthy space to be able to address it and be able to bring it into a safe space. Find people who love you, don't have any hidden agenda, and that honestly want to see you healed, and bring that in into the light, and then the healing can begin. So,
Yeah, I totally agree. So, wow. You mentioned about what do you call this? Teenage suicide, right?
yes.
In your book and in your interviews, in YouTube contents. And so I was really shocked when I found out that all these suicidal ideation, the cause of it is bullying. Because
Mhm.
I can tell you honestly, well, this is the story of my life. So I don't know. Filipino parents, they're very strict, and I don't know, maybe it's an Asian thing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if but I remember. Yeah, I think when I was teenagers, grade 5 or like that, 5th grade or 6th grade, I would have this thought that I wish I will just die. I wish I'll just die. And so I just want to share this. And so like a few months ago when me and my daughter went to her what do you call this? Annual physical. She's
Mhm.
13, so she had a moment with the doctor herself. And I don't know that this is a thing in America. And this is very private, but I'm just gonna share it anyway. So she had a moment with the doctor, and then after they talked, the doctor talked to me, and she got diagnosed with depression because she was thinking
Oh,
of just dying.
oh my.
And it made me like, wow, what have I done? Like,
Yeah.
I think I was doing already everything, and yet, I mean, what's my fault? Like, how? I don't know. Um, I don't know how would I feel, because I was like, I was blaming it to myself.
So how did I fail as a parent?
Oh wow. It was like I think I was mad. I was mad at her. I was mad at me. I was mad like, and yeah, we were just yelling after that. I was just yelling at her. Really, I was on my weakest point. And then I went out. I went to hike for 2 hours and just reflect like, Lord, what is this? Why am I experiencing this? Why is this happening to my daughter? This couldn't be. And so, yeah, we went through a process. So we went to counseling first, and then she talked to the counselor. And then, after that, I talked to the counselor. And I told the counselor, you know what? I thought this was just normal because growing up, I also thought like that.
Oh,
Uh-huh. And then she
the
said,
cycle.
Mm-hmm. And then she said like, but things could be better for her. And I agree. Because in the Philippines, this was not addressed.
No.
When you say like, I feel bad, and I mean, yeah, I don't know, like you just sleep. Parents will just tell you just sleep or just get busy, and like so they ignore this.
Yes, that's true.
What? So like here in America, you need to go through medication and counseling because they're really telling me, okay, put her in a medication. And I'm like,
Mm,
No, no, I think I can help her. But then, we went home and we talked, and then there was this conversation that I told my daughter, like, where did I go wrong? I think I was doing everything for you. And then she told me, why are you making this all about you, mom? And I
uh,
was like, ooh, wow. It was like, okay, I got it now. I got it now. And so, like, yeah,
wow.
now, like, it was just like, I think a point in my life that I had to prioritize my children. It was like, okay, enough of what I want, but what can I do for them? Because
Right,
yeah, I mean, I don't want them to be in an environment like, if this is all like because of me, I'm a strict mom, or like I don't know, maybe I'm too busy, I don't have time for them, then I need that needs to change.
right,
And then reading through your articles and listening to your YouTube, I was also thinking like, okay, this could be because of the influence outside at home. It might not just because of, me, because I'm blaming it to me. I'm like, what is this? Like, I'm doing all this stuff, and then my daughter is like that. No, this can't be. And so right now I'm just being aware of like just being open to her, like communicate with her
yeah,
better. Even with my son, we do that every night, like this is what's bullying is, and like because like your article really struck me, like, okay, this might be because of what's going on outside, but I need also to be careful of what I am, or
right.
how I treat my children, because I don't want this to happen to them. So there you go. I spill my.
Wow. I feel like I should give you a hug. I wish I
Oh
was
yeah, yeah.
another time zone, but I again I applaud you for your vulnerability, and I do want to say one thing because it's like it's funny. So I literally just I was like scampering like a chicken with my head cut off looking for In-N-Out Burger. I was looking for someone with good Wi-Fi, and the house I was just at, literally I was analyzing the children because it's like I work with so many kids, and they're like, "How do you know this?" I was like, "I don't know. I just know things." But when you were saying this story about your daughter, one thing I want to say just to encourage you and compliment you is, I mean, I've worked with now thousands and thousands and thousands of kids, and the fact that your daughter, how old is she?
She's 13.
Okay, so at 13, at that very, very transitional age, the fact that all of this came to the surface and the fact that she felt comfortable enough to say, yeah, don't make this all about you or something like that, that says volumes about her trust in you. Even though there were things that can be improved, the fact that she felt safe enough to communicate to you is huge. That's really, really unusual.
Thank
Because
you.
in my case, I never said anything. I would have gotten smacked upside the head and stomped upon. So, so I want to, in the midst of your pondering your parenting skills, I want to tell you that fact that she felt comfortable to say that to you, that's huge. That is a really super healthy sign because I don't think a lot of kids would feel comfortable in light of something big coming to light where they would turn around and tell their parent at 13. She's
Yeah.
that's really wise beyond her years too. You know that, right?
Yeah, because I'm also very vocal to them. I tell them if you see something that's bad,
Mm-hmm.
if you see some bad habits that I portray in front of you, you have to tell me. You have to tell me that I can't do this and I can't do that because makes you feel bad or it hurts your feelings. So I do my best. I try my best.
That's if you've been doing that from a very young age, or is that something you newly implemented?
I think recently. Yeah.
So I think that with this discussion, because I have so many topics, as you know, that I'm so passionate about because of all the things I've been through. I think it would be so useful and important if on some level, and maybe we could work on this together even, but to put together, because if parents were able to have some kind of filter guidelines, if you make sure on a consistent basis that your children feel comfortable, and it's very redundant, you have to do it continually for them to believe it. You can't say it one time and then not say it. But the fact that you're being consistent and you're saying, look, if I do something that hurts your feelings or makes you uncomfortable or makes you
Yeah.
sad, or if you're feeling this or that, come to me and I want to do better. I
Yeah.
will never intentionally cut you down. I will never intentionally hurt you. If they really hear that repetitively, just like the bad things, it will get ingrained in their mind. And then skip forward to the very, very brutal thing of bullying, cyberbullying, where I deal with teenagers with off the chart cyberbullying, crazy things. That's where the trust factor with the parents comes in, because if they already have that built bridge of trust where they know they can communicate and you won't get mad at them and you won't blame them and you'll listen with an open heart, then they'll come to you and go, hey, mom, I'm feeling suicidal because I'm getting bullied at school. I'm feeling like hurting myself. I feel like I should cut myself. I feel like if they feel like legitimate, but that trust is earned. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And I see some parents that I've talked to with about their kids, and they're frustrated because they're like, well, I said that. And I'm like, well, how often did you say it? And did you say it? And did you say it where in a way where they actually believe it?
Mm-hmm.
Because just like I heard those negative tapes over and over and over consistently, and why they're still living in my head. And again, being vulnerable, like you're being vulnerable. I struggle with my self-esteem every day. I totally do. I've never been married, I've never been engaged. And a big part of that is I'm so, so, so focused on my ministry advocacy work. That's like all I live for. It's all I think about, really. But I think on some level too, and I have thought about that here and there throughout my life, is, on some level, do I feel like I deserve to be loved? Do I feel like I deserve this, that, the other, in many different aspects of my life? And in trying to protect myself and being so hyper independent, which is another trauma response, we do everything for ourselves. And it's like, I don't know if you saw this particular video, but I have one, I think, about learning to be happy or something about that. And I was saying, because I've survived so much and I'm so hyper independent, and it's like, I want to give. That's all I want to do is give, 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 give. That's constantly the gear I'm in, is give. And it's like I could literally, and I said this in one of my videos. I don't know if it's the one about happiness or worth or what it was about, but I said I could literally have my last piece of bread in my hand, and if you're hungry, I'll give it to you and I'll drop dead. But I'm not going to tell you that I'm about to drop dead, because I'm so compelled to help. And it's like, I love that I have compassion and I love that I love to help people. But over the years, I've been the bottomless teapot, where I pour, pour, pour out, and I'm just empty and depleted and exhausted. And before my accident, Jeanith, it's like I used to, I worked really, really hard, and I was very generous and I loved to help people. But then I had my accident, and in a split second, I lost everything. And guess where 99% of my friends went? They just disappeared because I was no longer useful. But the thing I'm learning now, and that I'm trying to tell people that I'm working with now is it's like you don't want to lose that sweetness and that softness and that compassion. Don't want to lose that, but you do want to temper it with wisdom and discernment and be more discerning because I draw narcissists like a magnet. Holy cow. It's like if there's a
Wow.
narcissist in the room, they will come at me like
Wow.
I'm off to a flame. And so now I'm just really hyper aware of that. And I try to be mindful because, when you're kind, people that feed off of that, they come up and they love bomb you or whatever they do, and then they turn into monsters. It's what
Mm.
they do. And, for all the people that love, like you also, you're so kind and loving and joyful. You just carry like joy and sunshine in you. So when you're like that, there are definitely, I'm sure, like a lot of people who absolutely love you and adore you. But then just simply for being who you are, there are going to be a percentage of people that just hate you because of how people love you. They just are because they're just annoyed at your joyfulness. It just irritates them.
Mhm.
So these are just little things, and that's also a form of bullying too, by the way, because
Yeah.
it's like they see, it's like what was one of the things, Little Miss Sunshine. No, 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 you're so perfect. I'm like, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect at all, and I'm not joyful all the time. I cry sometimes, but it's like, um, just learning sometimes to not take everything personally too, because
Mhm.
some people are just angry. They're angry before you meet them, they're angry after you meet them, and they're angry all the time, and that's just who they are. So that's something too that I think is something to be aware of, is just having some discernment of some people are just, they just take joy in hurting people. They just do.
Yeah, but you see in Galatians 5:14, we are being told to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, right?
Yes.
So how do we deal with the bullies?
So are you talking about if you're the victim or if you're on look a person looking on? Which direction are you asking
You
from?
are the victim.
Okay, if you're the victim, I think there are a lot of, I mean, this is obviously a very deep. We're not going to answer every aspect of it in a few minutes or even an hour, but just a few initial things. So as a victim, number one, we need to consider how old you are. And
Mhm.
because you have limited control over your life when you're a child, very limited.
Mhm.
And um like my whole childhood, my really uh the point of like physical abuse really taking hold was at 7, and then it just went up from there. But when you're a child and you're being abused, and this is a slippery slope because in my experience things have come a long way, I have to say, in certain ways. So back when I was a kid, and I observed, because kids watch other kids, I would watch other kids in school, and if they would ask for help or they would say, hey, I'm having a problem at home or this or that or the other, they'd get taken to the principal's office. The principal's like, guess what they do? They call your parents.
Mhm.
It's the worst thing ever. So they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
they call the parents and then they get you in the principal's office and they put the parents on the phone, or even worse, the parents are sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh. And
Mhm.
then the parents are like, oh, poor Janie. She's so hysterical. She just likes to make things up. She just wants attention. And then you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, because you're going to get the hell beaten out of you when you get home.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're just sitting there like, oh my gosh. So I watch this over and over and I'm like, I'm never asking for help. And I do think we've come, and it depends, there's so many variables, what state you live in, what school you're going to, all kinds of stuff. But um, I think we've come a long way in some ways on that. But back in the day, because I'm old, it's like nobody gave a hoot. They would go straight to your parents and throw you back into the lion's den with them. But if you if you can do, I think one thing that at any age that is wisdom is, and this is, again, it's like not in any way to justify anybody's bad behavior, but if there's anything you can do while you're trying to figure out what to do and to get to a point where you can eventually remove yourself from that situation. It's definitely wisdom to not overly engage and to try to be as peaceful and non-confrontational as you can possibly be, even though it's not your fault. Um, Trying not to reason with crazy people, because that's something that bullies actually love engaging. And
Mm.
if you engage, even if you're trying to be reasonable, sometimes you're like, you know what? I really wish you, this really hurts me. That's like language you say to reasonable people. You say reasonable things to a bully and it just fuels them. Because then they're like, oh, good, I'm winning. So it's like sometimes the immediate best thing you can do right out the bat off the bat is just to as minimally contact them and just try not to be, if you're in school, try not to be around them. If you see them down the hall, go the other way. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying don't try to aggravate situations more than necessary. Sometimes that's wisdom, and while you're doing that, try to create situations like, and if you're in the workplace or if you're, even if you're in a marriage, it's really important to identify not gossipy people, but people who are legitimately caring and will be meaningfully trying to help you. And I see this a lot with domestic violence and child abuse. It's like having some kind of a trail when the abuse is going on, where you leave some form of a trail. So if something happens to you, disappear, where there's a track of some kind, where there's a history of this has happened this date, this has happened, like bruises. Documenting if you have a friend at work, documenting. It sounds to normal people, it sounds like, why would you do that? But it's very important because down the road, if you have to get a restraining order or an order of, protection or something like that, it's impossibly hard. That's something I'm also really passionate about. It's so hard for victims to get rights. It's easier for the abuser, and um if you don't have chronicled pictures, this was 3 years ago, this was 2 years ago, this is 6 months ago. If you don't have some kind of documentation, it's basically your word against theirs. And most bullies, abusers, etc., they're so cavalier and so arrogant, honestly, in court. They're very arrogant because they feel like they can run you over because they have run you over continually. So when you have some documentation and you have someone else that's been alongside quietly documenting what's going on, that can be really, really helpful. And it can help to get you the protection that you need. And one thing that has driven me crazy, I know it does with a lot of other abuse victims, is where people are so judgmental of, why didn't she just leave? And why didn't she just leave? And it's like, oh my goodness, it's like it's not like you just get up and walk out the door. There's so much more, repercussions, and people that say that obviously have no idea what it's like to be stranglehold by a relationship and to be in fear for your life, literally. I mean, I've had several restraining orders. In fact, I don't know if you know this or not, Jeanith, but I don't know if you were on social media with me at the time, but a few years ago, I used to have a much, much larger social media presence, and I purposefully had to take most of it down because of an extremely volatile and dangerous cyber stalker. It was
Wow.
literally absolutely life threatening. And I had to take a lot of things down from, because I was getting threats from all over the world because of him, literally, globally. And I had to shut pretty much everything down. And that's why I've been very low key to this point. I mean, I'm on, but I'm not at any level like I used to be. My Instagram used to be extremely active. Now it's like barely, I kind of just have it as a placeholder. It's not at all. The one that I had that was really, really super active and I helped so many bullying victims. I used to report bullies all the time, all over the world on Instagram. And eventually I got like really badly hacked on there. But social media is its own devil, honestly. I mean, there's so much good that can come of it, but it does make you vulnerable. And you just have to know there are people out there that are not right in their mind. They're just not. So you have to really, if you choose to put yourself out there, you have to have some kind of awareness that, you know, not everybody is good people.
Well,
So
not everybody is, or not everybody likes you. You're not everyone's cup of tea. Of course, sometimes you know that. Yeah, I know about that. People will screenshot your stuff and share it to somebody, and they will comment about it. They will laugh about it. See, that is very mean. I mean, why are people doing that?
they're mean.
They are
But you
mean.
know,
It's not, oh no, why? How are you doing that to your fellow? Right?
some people some people derive joy out of causing people pain. Literally, they just do. And yeah, before we run out of time, I would be remiss if I didn't say this. If your parents out there, even if your kids are older, I highly, highly encourage you. Number one, no, don't let your little ones be running around on social media. There are so many predators out there. Oh my gosh. Your child could likely disappear. I'm not joking. There's so many predators running around on the internet. And if you have children and you're not watching what they're doing on their iPad or their iPhone or their phone or the computer, if you're not minding what's happening, it's very, very easy to not know what's going on. It's very easy because, of course, these predators are not acting like they're 45-year-old pedophiles. They're acting like they're 12-year-old cute boys, and the girl is like, "Oh, he's so cute, and he goes to this school in the next town. He's going to come visit me." No, he's not. He's going to kidnap you.
This is so
And it's a wicked world.
Oh yes, this is so true. I totally agree to that. I totally agree with you. I'm just telling my kids about that too. You know, it's just bringing awareness to our kids that these things are really happening. Even,
Yeah.
let them watch these YouTube videos about kids who are, who just disappeared because of that. So yeah, go ahead. I mean, parents have to know this.
A lot of kids are not running away. They're being abducted. They're
They
they're
are.
not run away. That is a fact. There's a whole secret society subculture going on that is proactively identifying vulnerable children. Vulnerable children, by the way, a big part of that is without active parenting.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be, if you're a parent, you need to be active. Putting your child in front of an iPad or a TV or a computer screen and throwing money at them is not active parenting. Giving them money is not giving them parenting. They need your love, they need time. Parents need to give their kids structure. I've always said this like over and over and over again. The way to make children feel loved, and I think all people, but especially children, is to give them structure. If you give them no structure, they don't feel loved. Throwing money at them and gifts and toys and clothes, that's not love. That's just stuff. And if you don't give them self-esteem, and not that, you know what I mean, not the entitlement where they're brats, but to make them feel like they are worthy. And so when they have some kind of self-esteem to where when they are confronted with bullies at school, where they should question when people speak untruth to them. That's really important. When you don't have any self-esteem and then you go to school and they're like, "Oh, you're stupid. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're whatever." If you don't have any sense of self or who you are, if you don't know who you are, and kids at school identify that you're vulnerable and they tell you, if they don't have anything to hold up against that, you need to give them, as parents, you need to give them something to counter the lies with where they know what the truth is. And you make sure your children know the truth of who they are. You're this is your kind, you're smart, you're worthy, you're all those things. And when somebody comes and confronts them with some nonsense, they should be able to be like, "Wait, that's not true." If they don't have anybody, which is their parents at home, telling them that, then when they hear otherwise, they're going to believe it. And just like in my house, where I was constantly told all the negative things, it's not surprising when people told me outside of my house the same, and it just all mirrored each other. So it just made it worse. So if you're not setting the standard for your child of who they are and what their worth is, etc., then they're not going to have any standard to hold up if somebody comes with lies. And and relationships, it's like I know there's a lot of single parenting going on, and if you're a single parent, God bless you, but it's like, especially for girls, since you and I are girls, I'll speak to young girls because I've worked with so many of them. It's definitely true that if a young girl does not have a positive male figure in her life, it's definitely true that they're very vulnerable to mistreatment by men. They just are, because you don't have a standard. So I think if you're a guy out there and you have a daughter or a son, but a daughter in particular, it's really important to teach them, how should a guy treat you? How should you be treated? You should be treated with respect. You should be treated with kindness. You should, have boundaries, and you should feel good and right holding them up. So these are just really a lot of things surrounding bullying. If you have proactive parenting where you daily are checking in with your kids and on a regular basis having really open communication where they feel safe to talk to you, then that would eliminate a lot of bullying, honestly. Because in one of my videos, the one with Jeremiah, actually, that really 1 hour long on YouTube, that one I was saying about the 7-year-old child that killed themselves. I was saying, I guarantee you, if you asked the parents the night before, if you said, "Hey, what do you think about bullying in schools?" They might have said, "Oh, well, yeah, it's important, I guess," you know. And then the next night, their own 7-year-old child is hanging in their bedroom. They had no idea what was going on with their child, and most parents have no idea. So, is it tragic? Yes, it is. But is it avoidable to some extent? And I don't want to ever say blanket statements or judgment statements, but I do think a lot of things that are absolutely horrible can be avoided if there's more active parenting and we listen to our kids. Kids need to feel safe telling us hard stuff. That's really true.
Mm-hmm.
Not just good stuff. If they have, tell them, look, I don't care what you tell me, I will always love you. Will always love you. Always feel free to tell me. I will always. So that's really, really, really important, because they're always, that's one thing when I work with kids, a lot of times I'm like, why don't you tell your parents? Oh, they'll be mad at me. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want you to be mad at them. And if you can assure them on a regular basis that you will not be mad at them and that you'll always love them and you can always be, there to hear anything, I think that that would help a lot with the context of home life. But that way also set them up for not becoming bully victims in school and at the workplace and in their general relationships.
Solely agree, but I just would like to add that I just would like to add something to that as well. This is a sad truth, but there are a lot of parents who have not been healed with their own traumas too. There are a lot of parents who are also, narcissists.
Oh yeah.
And that's why, this problem is not easy to solve. I think we as parents have to deal with our own trauma and heal first before we can really be good at parenting. Because sometimes we just think about ourselves, and
Mhm.
this is the truth. And yeah, sometimes we're just too selfish. We say things like, what I'm doing is for you, but the truth is, it's for our own ego. And because we are now parents, let us make it a goal to heal and to be better for our children. Because
Yes,
the future generation lies on their hands. This
absolutely.
curse, yeah, these curse will just go on and go on if we don't stop it ourselves. This
Right.
is to start with us, not with our kids.
Absolutely. And I agree. A lot of people, in fact, if you look at, and I don't want to say teen pregnancy in particular, but some of it is that, but it's not just teen pregnancy. or crisis pregnancy, but a lot of times there are people that are so deeply wounded, and I think this is fairly common actually, with a lot of the kids I've worked with, because they have had no love, so to speak. They have no sense of belonging. They have nothing to live for. They purposefully will get pregnant because they want to have something to love. They
Mm.
want something to love them, but then they have no parenting skills. I mean, they're bringing this with all of it's all just broken. Everything's broken. You can't bring a baby into this broken picture and have a good ending. There has to be some kind of intervention. And then with adults too, even like well-to-do, wealthy people that adopt children or have children or whatever, get surrogate people to carry their children. Sometimes they're just having them to create little robots for their wishes. That's all that child is for, is to make them look good and to make them, reflect well. That's all that child's job in their life, is to make them look good. That's it. It's nothing about what does the child want or need or how does the child feel. It's like, this child is here to make me look good at my public functions, and to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like a little mini me of themselves, or whatever they think that that child should be. And that causes suicide as well, and tremendous anxiety and depression. So, and the drug addiction. I mean, look at the mental illness since COVID. I mean, it's just absolutely skyrocket. Our children are so damaged by the social inactivity. And I mean, the world was so warped. That was not anything normal. There's nothing normal about the world at that point. And I remember meeting some parents that had um infants and toddlers during COVID, and we'd be talking about how cute their kids are and this and that. And one conversation I had that particularly struck me was, they were like, "Yeah, our daughter has never seen another baby." And I left and I thought, "Holy cow, this baby thinks it's the only baby in the whole world." How is that going to frame their view? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's so not normal. This is like an 18-month-old baby that's never seen another child ever, and virtually no adults other than three people in the house. So, I mean, there's a lot that we as a society are burdened with, and I think it's our responsibility, honestly, to do what we can to try to undo some of the mental damage and social damage. People don't even know how to interact anymore. They
Mm-hmm.
don't. It's like having a conversation, making eye contact, getting a hug. I mean, it's holding a conversation. I mean, it's all these things. We really need to actively reintroduce a lot of basic life skills into our children, because they've been literally deprived. Not, and they didn't ask for that. It just happens to be when they were born. So, I mean, it's nothing to blame them for so much as it is, okay, this is what happened. How can we help to fix them and fill in these gaps of mental unwellness that's happening now? Because look at how insecure. I think the level of teen depression and child depression is just skyrocketed. It's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, this is true. And this is a real problem of our society that we need to address. And I know that this is hard too, because a lot of people are just thinking about themselves. And this is what I'm saying, that if we, it's in the Bible, if we deny ourselves and follow Jesus and serve others, just like you, Raven, I'm so inspired by what you do. You're you're so focused in helping others, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank
Thank
you. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you for doing that. We must do what you do. I mean, we should find our own passion where we can help in the society to heal. Because,
Yes.
yeah, we live in a broken world, and that's a sad reality. And but then we have the hope that we can still heal.
Yes. I
So,
would really like to change the conversation about so many topics. That's really, if you read the description of my book on Amazon, Perfectly Broken, the book description, but it's like changing the conversation about mental illness. Like even God bless her, I'm so inspired by her, Simone Biles. I mean, for her in
Yeah.
her position to say, look, I need to take care of myself. I'm struggling. Oh, what respect. It's like, wow. I mean, that was really powerful. And then look, she comes back and wins like a million more gold medals. But it's like that's the kind of things where on so many topics, and I'm also really passionate about like the way that we view veterans and the way we view senior citizens and the way we view disabled people and autistic people, all these different senior citizens, all these things. It's like to change the conversations of what does this people group look like? Because right now, I think we sadly have a lot of really negative and inaccurate stereotypes, and it's really wrong. I mean, it's so wrong, and it's a product of a lot of misinformation and of nobody proactively coming and presenting the truth. If you leave it alone, really, how can you complain about it if you're not providing correct information so people can question it? Because it's like if you say this is that kind of person and you don't have anything else, and you're like, oh, that means they're this. No, not everybody is anything. We need to like have conversations and define and question why we believe what we believe. Because it's like a lot of things, just because they're handed to us, it doesn't mean it's the truth. Um, yeah, like yeah, there's so many topics I could go off on a tangent with, even with abuse victims. Like when I speak at a school, I
Mm-hmm.
generally, well, always did this. I would always walk around like during lunch or something and just kind of walk around with the principal or some teachers or something, just walk around and just see the kids and let them see me. And there's several hours that pass before I actually do the event. And I let them form an opinion of me because that's what all of us do. We all judge people. We all do. Everybody. I don't care who you are. You see a person, you look up and down, you're like, okay, that person is this. And it's just what we do. So then when I get up in the auditorium and I'm sitting on the edge of the stage or whatever, and I start speaking and I tell them about the extreme hell that my life was, they're like, wait, what?
Mm.
Because it's like that's not who they thought I was.
Mm.
So I think it's so important, what does a severe abuse victim look like? What does a disabled veteran look like? What does a senior citizen look like? What does an autistic person look like? All of these stereotypes that we throw and label onto everybody. If we could really like understand what people are and what does it mean to be like this or that, there's incredible beauty and strength in a lot of these people that we throw into these bundles of stereotypes, and it's really a loss to society because there's a lot of love and beauty and admiration for all these people groups that people don't see. And there's recently, you probably have seen it on social media trending around. I love this project. I think a lot of people have been doing varieties of it, but where they take like a senior citizen and then they take like a teenager and they match them off, and there's nothing in common with them, by the way. I think it's fairly random. Maybe they pick them because they're not like each other, but they put them together for like 2 weeks. And initially, it's always the same, like, I have nothing in common with you. Oh my gosh, you're annoying. You're old. Oh my gosh, you're a brat. You're a millennial. And all these preconceptions. By the end of 2 weeks, every time they are inseparable. They love each other. It's like that is a huge key to solving much of what's wrong with our society. I really, really believe that.
So you believe that love is the answer.
Always, always,
Love is
real
the
love. Love is such a misused word.
answer.
Real, real love.
The love that comes from Jesus, the love that Jesus portrays.
Love.
Yeah,
Yes.
true love.
Love is with intention, with a agenda.
If we can
Pure
only
love.
love each other, then we can heal this world.
Yes,
If we could just
absolutely.
stop being mean and rude and judgmental to each other, then we can heal.
And protect each other for goodness sake. It's like we need to return
We
to
care
decent
for each other. Yeah.
passion. It's like it always drove me so crazy because you see people like when I was in my book, I don't know if you got to this part. There was one particular chapter where I was living in apartment E4. I remember the apartment number. I had the hell beaten out of me on a regular basis. It was very, very, very loud. I was being
Oh.
banged into the walls and stomped on, and it was very noisy. And these apartments were cheap and they had very thin walls because this was right after my father abandoned us. So we got put into cheap housing because we didn't have anywhere to go.
Mhm.
But I remember when I'd be laying on the floor seeing stars, rings of stars over my head, about to black out. And I would be sitting there thinking, I know these neighbors hear this, and nobody did anything. Nobody did anything. It is your business. If you hear abuse, if you see something, it's everybody's business. When we begin to defend each other and protect our neighbors and care for each other and be who we should be as a decent society, we will fix a lot of these problems, and bullying would greatly be alleviated if people would do the right thing, honestly. It would never escalate to such a point if people don't just turn away and not say anything. It's everybody's
Absolutely.
business when abuse is happening.
Absolutely. Because we are one. We are one.
Yeah,
So we need to care for each other. Yeah, wow. Thank you so much. This is such a great conversation, Raven. And I hope that people are also learning a lot. Our audience are learning a lot from this conversation because we need to bring awareness. Without awareness, we're just not gonna know what's going on around us. And people are hurting everywhere. And what are we doing? We only
yeah,
focus on our goals, on our on what we can achieve and we can acquire.
ourselves.
When around us are hurting, we can't do that. I mean,
Yes.
no way. And then you
That's
said, yeah, was that?
in the Rotary speech that I just gave that you watched, I was saying, people always say, this, and I'm going to go on a mission trip and that. And I was like, if you want to change the world, you don't need a passport. You just open your eyes and you will see everywhere, no matter who you are, where you are, there are hurting people everywhere. If you want to change the world, do something. You don't have to write a check. Open your eyes, just be proactive. Stop staring at your phone all day long. If you see somebody crying, ask them if you can help them. Somebody looks distressed. You can't believe it. It's like there's so many stories I've heard. And it's even me. I've been standing in Walmart and I've had this one girl's coming to my mind. I don't know. It's like a magnet. When you have had trauma, I
Hmm,
have trauma victims that come up to me randomly. It just happens. But she
wow.
walks up to me in the line at Walmart and she taps me on the shoulder, and I turned around and she pulled her sleeves up and she showed me her scars on her wrists. And she just hugged me and I was just like, "Oh my gosh." There is something the same way that we emanate hatefulness and unkindness, and where people you walk by and they're afraid of you, if we would turn in and tap into the love in our hearts, people will feel love too. It works both ways.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. So anything else, Raven? I know that it's going late there and in here too, but I we can go on and on.
Yeah, I'm so passionate about all these things. And, if people want to make a difference, number one is just wherever you are and whoever comes across your path, you can be in Trader Joe's, you can be in the grocery store, you can be in a parking lot. That's the beginning. The beginning of the beginning is just being proactive and opening your eyes and paying attention and doing something. I think if we have one thing, if everybody watching this would just start being kind and make an effort to pay attention to your coworkers. I don't know if you saw my holiday orphan thing, but I have a few, but the original holiday orphan thing, it's like I'm like, every single holiday, it's always frustrated me so much how we have such a commercialized time of year and everybody's like, oh, be joyful and jolly and, Merry Christmas and all this. And then at the same time, every year, the suicide rate spikes through the roof, but nobody talks about that. And that has always just made me so sad. And, that's a huge opportunity. I want to encourage everyone every time there's any, and we have a holiday coming up right now. I mean, it's not Christmas, but Labor Day. If
Yeah.
you have coworkers and they don't have family and they're not talking about their plans, if you're making a barbecue and I mean, what is it going to hurt you to invite them? And when people have these events, generally, I mean, what's it going to kill you to make an extra hamburger? Usually, there's leftover food anyway.
Mhm.
Um, and here's the thing that I think, and I can only speak to this with so much authority because I am this person. You can invite people that don't have anything or people that don't talk about the holiday. Those are really prime targets for this, by the way. If they don't say anything or they go silent when you talk about holidays, that's a really big flag for you. But if you invite them and they don't go, even if you invited them, you may stop them from killing themselves. And I'm not joking about that at all, because I've had people that I know of where they tell me that. They're like, you know what? I felt like nobody sees me, nobody hears me, nobody cares, and I'm just going to do this. And somebody invited me to their house, and I was scared or I felt awkward and social anxiety, whatever. I didn't go, but I felt like somebody saw me. Huge. It's huge. What did it cost you? Nothing.
Nothing. That's right. Wow. So, I don't know if you've heard about this, but recently I launched this spiritual growth journal, and in that journal there is a section that is asking, what can I do today to have a positive or extraordinary impact on others? So, for me, this is very important because I figured that we always think about ourselves. And when we set our day with full intention to to serve others, help others, and show them or let them feel that we've seen them, then we can bring a positive or even an extraordinary impact on their lives just to let them feel that we care about them. And so I hope this can be our practice every day, to not just think about us, but to think about how we can serve and love others. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That was beautifully said.
Yeah. I mean, we are busy and doing our stuff, and I know there are bills to pay, and we have a lot of responsibilities, but this life is not just all about us. This life is not just all about me. This is all about how we can help others one way or another. I mean, we don't have to spend millions, or we don't have just one smile can heal them.
Yes, exactly. I was about to say that, and you said it. It's like that's I think a huge thing before we jump off. I definitely what you just said. So it's like it's not at all about even with your parenting and everything. It's not about spending money. It's about kindness. It's about time. It's a smile. It's an energy, and that whole thing that I got a little emotional about because it's like I don't talk about that often, but the same way that a bully walks into a room and incites fear and dread into the hearts of people, I can walk into Walmart. If you can walk into Walmart and have hunters walking up to you and hugging you, that's that's it's the same, it's energy, it's
Then
love, it's how you impact the room. If you walk into the room and you bring kindness, how beautiful would the world be if 5% of us would start doing that? If we would start being the living glove that people so desperately need, and people, I know people are annoyed. Some people, I have way more people that love me than don't like me, but just because I live this out daily and I spend so much energy trying to make sure people feel acknowledged and loved and I give hugs and things, but it's like if more people would just do that, I don't think anybody in the world pretty much ever hears I love you enough. I
Yeah.
don't think so. Not from people that don't want something bad from you. And how many people get enough hugs? Probably nobody, and especially in post-COVID world, because people got turned off. Think about this, we had years where children didn't see hugs. I
Mm.
think we need to reintroduce the idea of a
Mm.
innocent, loving, caring touch, which is a hug, not a weird hug, but like the idea of feeling cared and valued. I think that, and that's free. All of these things, all of these kindnesses, making eye contact, smiling, giving a caring look at somebody, you don't know what impact that could have. Somebody could be just really having a horrendous day or time, and that can be like a turning point. A lot of times it really can. There are a lot of people that are walking by us every day, and I would dare say it's like any muscle. It's like, because I'm so consciously, I've always been this way, by the way. So I know it's not to my level, maybe not normal, but it's like I'm so consciously seeking for the energy of the people around me. I think I'm a little hypersensitive to it. But I mean, if everybody could just try to be looking for an opportunity every day, if you find one person, even if you don't speak to them, but you give them some positive energy in the form of a glance or a wave or a hug or a smile or something, that's really good. If everybody made a conscious effort to spread some kindness, that would just be really, really meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, we wonder what's our purpose on earth when our purpose is just right beside us. Our purpose is to love others. Our purpose is to serve others. Our purpose is here, what we do now to make a difference, to make an impact. In one way or another, we don't have to spend a lot of money for that, to just smile, just like what we've said earlier, right? And so, yeah, Raven, you have a charity. How can we support you?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. So, um, as people know that have known me a long time, a lot of people, yesterday, inspired by you actually, I hit the button on live or something on Facebook. I had no idea what I was doing yesterday. I just was
Yeah.
there looking at the phone. I hit the button, and then I mentioned that we're having this live stream tomorrow. So I was like goofing around it, but um I was on there and I was getting some feedback, and people are like, Raven, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I think I take for granted people have any idea what in the world I'm doing. I'm like, I guess I should explain. So, before my accident, obviously I had a horrendous childhood, but that is all preparation for the person I am. So I have no, what's the word? I don't feel angry or upset about it because I know it was all for a purpose and it makes me who I am. So I immediately went into my child advocacy and abuse advocacy and all this as an adult. And I was doing really well, and then had an 18-wheeler accident, which is the one you mentioned earlier. And from being able to 100% self-fund all of my advocacy trips and my work with domestic violence, child abuse, foster care, bullying, everything, I lost everything. So at this point, I am preparing to relaunch my charity.
Yes.
um, this wonderful, God bless them, this wonderful law firm called DLA Piper, which is, I believe it's the second biggest law firm in the world. While I was still recovering, which I'm on some level still recovering from my accident because I had so many injuries, um, they found out about the work that I'm doing. And because all of the work that I do falls within the wheelhouse of their children's charity interests, they actually adopted my charity and did what was necessary to turn my 501(c)(3), which is my charity status, back on. So that happened. And right now I'm proactively having meetings with the American Legion, which I have so much love and respect for veterans. Veterans are the best people in
Mm.
the world, in
Mm.
my opinion. They're the selfless acts of courage, the kindness, the compassion, the proactiveness of protecting others. There's so much, and I won't go on and on about that, but I've always wanted, my whole charity career, I've always wanted to engage veterans as role models for our children, because they are. It's like especially like the Congressional Medal of Honors, specifically heroes like ones that have done really particularly brave acts of courage and just really exemplified everything we're talking about on a high level. And I've always been like, wow, I wish we could get veterans incorporated into our schools. So apparently there is a curriculum that exists to do that. So I'm working on something that I'm hoping to be able to help get that into school so we can help children have good, really wholesome, positive role models and a lot of other things. But if you're curious and you want to find my book online, it's on Amazon only right now, and it's as a download. It's Perfectly Broken. And by the way, there are several books titled Perfectly Broken. But since you're watching this live stream, this is what I look like. I'm on the cover of the book. So if you see my face, you know you're looking at the right one. So it'd be Perfectly Broken by Raven Faith. And if you're bored and you want to check out some videos, I have that other video on many topics, bullying included. If you go on YouTube, you could just put Raven Faith in and my channel will pop up. So
Amazing. Thank you. And you have a website, right?
I
For
do.
the
It's Children's
charity.
Compassion. Thank you. You're great. It's like I'm not used to promoting myself. It's like an anti-promoter. It's Children's Compassion Network.org. Children's with an S at the end. Children's Compassion Network.org. Yeah.
Yay.
So,
And where can people find you in your social? What
um,
form are you using right now that you're active?
well, now that I mentioned earlier, I had a very, very much broader one, but currently on my slimmer profile, I right now am only on Facebook primarily. I have a barely active Instagram, but it's Raven Faith. Probably at some point because I'm working towards getting everything moving again after all my accident slowdowns. But eventually I'll probably have some kind of a public page where it's more like informative as we start getting events and things going again. I love, love, love doing interactive events. All my events have always been interactive and free, and that's really where I feel like God has really used everything the most because it's interesting because we put the mic out into the audience and I let them hold the mic. And what's really unique is they hold the mic after I answer the question and they keep asking more. So we really get to go deep down the rabbit hole with their questions. And the longest one to this point I did in a high school in Texas was like over 3 hours. Now that's like a few hundred, I don't know how many hundreds of teenagers for 3+ hours, and you could have heard a pin drop because nobody knew what anybody was going to say. It's interesting because nobody knows what's going to happen, including me. So
Wow.
when you have like a just wide open conversation where there's no holds barred, basically, it's just like whatever they want to talk about. That's really, really powerful. And the only reason I think I'm able to carry such discussions is because I have such a wide, broad spectrum of suffering that I've gone through. So it's like to to this point, I've never had anyone go on a tangent where I can't jump on and go with them. And I think that that's really a blessing. And being able to utilize my book as leverage, so to speak. So when people want to talk about their issue. Like if this happened to them, they can point at my book and say, when this happened to you, how did you feel?
Wow.
Instead of owning the issue. So instead of saying, when you got beaten and they can point at the book and say, how did you feel? So, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of deflects attention. And sometimes it's still them, but it's like it's more comfortable to move the conversation forward to be able to deflect the negative issue onto the person you're talking to on the stage. So I feel really blessed and humbled that God has allowed me to create a format and a book and give me such a passion to transform all of my suffering into tools to help people. And I feel really really honored to be able to do that. And I pray for the wisdom to be able to use all of this for the greatest good for our country, which I think you know. My mission field is the United States primarily because there's so much brokenness around us all. I mean, if people would just pay attention to what's happening around themselves every day, the whole world would change. And it's like wherever you're listening in the world, this is for you too, no matter where you are, or where you live, whatever place you are, and you wake up in the morning, purposefully look for opportunities to be kind. Purposefully look, and you will find them. God will send people across your path. It's up to you to take action.
Amazing, perfectly said. Okay, before I let you go, this is very important, a very important question. What are your thoughts about spanking?
Oh my, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Okay, so in my in my in my violently horrific life, and just to give you one, by the time I got removed out of my house, and you've seen me in person, so you know how tall I am. I
Yeah.
got in at 5'6", 5'7". Um, by the time I got removed out of my house, I was 84 pounds. So I was almost dead. So I
Yeah.
spanking is not something I really experienced. It more was like unjustified beatings randomly all the time. So I never experienced spanking per se because I was just getting beaten all the time. So,
What
but
is the
my feeling,
difference between spanking and beating? How?
my feelings in general, um, I think our society, and this is something I hope people don't take bits out of this out of context and try to bury me with it, because this is a very sensitive topic,
Yeah.
and I do have a lot of feelings about it. But I think with our society in the state that it currently is in, I think it is gonna not be taken well, but it's fine. Um, I think mentally, and I'm not saying everybody in the world is crazy, but I think mentally and the way a lot of people are so high strung, and this is adults too, by the way. I think after COVID, I think no matter which direction you were bent, it magnified that trait about you. If you were already a little mean, it made you super mean. If you were really quiet, it made you more quiet. So I think coming, especially at this time, 2024, when we're coming out of COVID, I think a lot of people, and then people, even normal people, were extremely stressed for good reason. We
Mm.
weren't able to work. We weren't able, I mean, there's so much mentally, and again, I'm not saying everyone is crazy, but I think everyone is still traumatized from the experience of going through COVID. It was so unnatural and so unhealthy for our mental wellness, all of us, everyone. It wasn't good for anyone.
Mm.
I think in general, with the way people are still coping with that, I don't think in general a lot of people um would know how to dispense that properly where they might have been more appropriate pre-COVID. I think we all, in when it comes to interacting with our children, and especially in a possibly harmful way, I think we need to really take pause and put a lot of thought into our own intentions. Why are we doing this? How am I? Is this to make me feel better? Am I feeling super stressed? I think we need to take a big, big, deep look inside of our hearts and our own selves before we take any form of any action that would harm our children, because I think they're harmed enough right now. We're all damaged. We are all, as a society, the whole world after COVID. Anywhere there was a quarantine, we are all still recovering from that. And I think we're all impacted mentally from the stress and strain of that. So I think we really need to take heed and really be mindful of how we don't further damage our children, and we don't take our stress out on them in ways that are going to cause more damage.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that answer. Yeah. I know because our children are the most vulnerable and helpless member of the society. And we as parents should be their protector and not their, not the one who's gonna cause
Tormentor.
harm to them. Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I'm not a perfect mom. I could, yeah, I would, but yeah,
that's why you notice I didn't make any blanket statement in any direction. But at this point in history in 2024, I think if you take some people that are very level headed in 2019, very level headed, and might be like, oh, yeah, I spanked my child, measure yourself before you touch your child 4 years later, because it's like everybody has been so impacted. You might not know what makes you snap now. You might not. I guarantee you a lot of people will snap a lot easier in ways that they'll regret now than they would before COVID hit, because we've all gone through so much strain. We just have. So it's something to really greatly take stock of yourself and what you're doing before you do anything. Yeah, like I said, practice the pause before you reach out and whack your child. Think about why are you doing it, and think of the repercussions. And is it justified, and is it right? And just all of that. Really search your own heart.
I know. And I know too that some of us will say, well, easier said than done. But I do believe that it is possible. It is possible when we intentionally do it, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is not easy, but that's why I'm saying that we as parents have to heal too. And that's very
Parenting is not easy at all. Absolutely. You know what? Life is not easy. Nothing's
Mhm.
easy. And the only thing, we can all do to help each other immediately is what, like I said, every day look for opportunities to be kind. And you know what people, I think a lot of people don't realize is, and for me, if you know me well and you've been around me, you know this is true, and you're probably laughing when I say this, but every day, every day, I wake up. If I am not able to find a way to meaningfully be helpful to someone, I am sad. It's like I'm sad. It's like all day long I'm searching for opportunities to bring joy and give a hug and be comforting. It's what fuels me. I'm not saying everybody needs to be that crazy, but one thing, if we all did one thing a day, one thing,
it's
look
not
for one,
hard. Yeah,
it's not hard.
not hard. It's
Not
not
hard.
it's
And
not hard
if
at
you
all.
are not like liking the idea of it, do your one thing and then stop. It's okay. Just do one thing.
Just
That's
do
where it
one thing.
starts. But people don't understand how you get
Important.
so much more back. So
True.
much more. It's like, for me, it's like oxygen.
Yeah.
It's to be kind. It's so joyful. If you actually start living and practicing kindness, you will see it will bring you much greater joy than you can ever get any other way. I really, really believe that.
I totally agree too. Yeah, and that is doable. If you can just do one
Yeah,
thing,
it's free.
it's free. Yeah, kindness is free. Kindness is free.
Yes.
And yeah, wow, this is so impactful and I love this conversation. Yeah, this is so good. Thank you so much, Raven. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, and anything else? Any last words that you can say to our audience? Well, yeah, I'm so blessed today. I'm so blessed, and I know our audience are blessed too to listen and to learn from you. So,
Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege, and it's like, yeah, I truly, truly live for this. It's like when you ask me, because it's like seriously, it's like I have been asked to do a few interviews in the past little while, and it's kind of like a staple answer. I'm really busy right now because I am, and it's not a joke. I mean, that's why I'm hip hopping around all these parking lots, because I literally zoomed right out of an appointment, and I'm like, okay, Wi-Fi. But it's like I really, on the one hand, do I have time? No, I don't have time. But I was like, I told my office, I was like, I have to stop at this point. And um, a big part of it was because it was you. But it's like I really, really, I'm going to try to as I ease back into opening my charity up. And you'll see as it's happening. If you know what, that's something everyone can do. I would really appreciate if y'all can pray for me. I
yeah.
need wisdom, I need discernment, and I have courage. I'm so audacious. I will fight till there's no breath left in me for our children. I am so dedicated to that. I pray God will give me discernment and wisdom and show me how to best be of service to our incredible country and to help bring hope and healing to the people here. That's what I would ask for.
We'll definitely pray for you, but I will leave you with a challenge. If you can be live every week, just once a week on your social media platform, and so people can ask you questions, people you can reach people from around the world, that will really bring more impact to everyone.
Thank
Oh
you.
yeah.
You know, I had an idea, Jeanith, and I want to ask you since you brought it up. It's interesting because it's like I told you yesterday, it's you that inspired. I must have looked like a complete idiot because I was staring at the phone. I was like, I'm gonna hit this button, and I hit it. And I seriously, I had no idea what was happening. I was like, I'm staring at it. I'm like, I don't know if anything happened, but seriously, what I think I'm going to do is because it's like I'm realizing with the comments I'm getting, privately and stuff, people are like, "Okay, Raven, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, these people don't know what I do. I need to explain it to them." So I'm thinking that on Sundays, I'm probably going to it's really funny because it's the one thing I always said I will never do. I think I may pick like a little excerpt out of my book and read a little bit. And while I'm reading it, people can be like forming their thoughts. Because there's a lot of really, really dark and yeah, there's some really deep stuff in there. So if I pick like a little segment here or there, and then we can break into like interactive session. I think that would bring a lot of people healing because I have things that have happened to me that, when I spoke in the schools, I had so many kids, so many kids. And there are two things that hurt a lot over and over and over separately. And one of the things is, thank you for being a voice for us. Thank you for bringing a voice to the voiceless. That's something I've always heard. And that's something I take really, really seriously. I feel a deep responsibility to be a voice for all the people that have suffered all the things I have and still are. And then the other thing is I'm so tired. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you for doing this. I'm
They
honored.
they were like, you look sad. I was like, I'm not sad. I'm tired. So tired. But the other thing, goodness gracious, what was I gonna say? They said that, and um, there was another thing. They said you're being a voice. Oh, I know. Here it is. It's come back to me. And they said this was a lot. In fact, in some of the reviews I sent you for my Amazon book, Perfectly Broken, um, they were like, seeing you, hearing you, listening to you gives me hope because you survived all that and you're still here. That means I can survive too. That is huge. Yeah. So I mean, for all the of course it's embarrassing. Does anybody want to say, "Oh, I had a really jacked up childhood. It was amazing."
I
Nobody wants
know.
to talk about that. But it's like when you have people come up to you and they're like, because your life was worse than mine, I know I can survive too. I'm not going to kill myself now. I'm going to stop cutting. I mean, to hear that over and over and over, that is everything. It's everything. It's so worth it. Everything I went through, every time I get a comment like that, every beating, every starvation, every stalking, everything I went through, when I'm able to impact a life and bring hope and instill hope into especially our children are our future, and they're being so viciously attacked by our society. It really upsets me and it angers me actually because it's like I see our children being attacked
Mm.
and they need some positive counter to that, which I hope in God's way He will give me the mercy in the near future to start implementing ways to give some counter feedback so these kids can have hope and positive role models and know that they can overcome challenges and to be kind and that kindness is the key to fixing our society. They can learn to interact and to know that they matter and that they're valuable and they don't have to compromise themselves and who they are to be loved and accepted. They can be who they are and keep values. Values are very important and we're losing them
Yeah.
rapidly. I think it should be respected. If people have values, we should respect them, and we currently do not. And I think by teaching children to value, each other and to respect each other and be kind and compassionate, this is what's going to fix our world, really.
And you are one of the instruments of God for making this world a better place to live in. And thank you so much for doing that. I hope
Thank
we're
you.
all inspired by Raven. I hope we're all going to take part in this journey of healing our society because we have to. We just have to. All right, everybody. Yes, Raven, you have
One
something
last
to say?
thing, since you brought that up a second ago, I have one last thing. If I were Jeanith to do that little thing on Sundays where I have a little excerpt of the book, or I have people pick an excerpt they want, if anybody starts reading it and they let me know, I'm gonna start trying to frame out when I can possibly do that on a Sunday. And if people have sections they want to talk about in the book, they can tell me, hey, this story or that. Then I'll pull that out and lift it out, and then we can maybe run with that. But I'm really gonna start trying to do that for your challenge. Thank you.
Of course, you all buy Raven's book on Amazon. It's only 7.99, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's basically it when it's in physical print, it's gonna be a 5-part box set. So it's really 5 books, but you get it all in one download.
Yeah, so get a copy of her book. Through that, you will not only help yourself to heal, but you'll also support her charity. So it's a win-win, you all. And yeah, thank you, Raven. I'm so blessed. I'm honored, and I'll pray for you, you all. Let's all pray for Raven that God will give her more wisdom and discernment and more strength to continue on this journey of helping our kids to heal. And in that way, we can also heal our society, and not just that, but also the world. So, yeah, I love you all. And anything else, Raven?
I love you, Jeanette.
I
You're
love you
awesome.
too. You're awesome. So I'll be expecting you to be live on your Facebook. Yeah. And you all follow her at Raven Faith on Facebook, and we all see her doing her mission live, and not just to reach United States of America, but to all four corners of the world. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, and God bless you.
All
God bless you, everyone. Have a good rest of your night, or have a good rest of your day wherever in the world you are. Love
right.
you. God
Love
bless.
you all.
Thank you,
Bye.
Raven. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.